This is at Large Auteur, and welcome to another vinyl recommendation. Today I'm going to be talking about the new Kendrick Lamar album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. And instead of just recommending Mr. Morale, because it didn't feel right, I haven't talked about Kendrick's other work. And a lot of the dialogue that I've had with other music reviewers and other fans of Kendrick has been a little confrontational. Just for the fact that a lot of the people I've been talking to are insisting that this is the end-all and be-all of rap in 2022 because they've been waiting so long for Kendrick, and they think this project just blows everything away. And people have gone further than that, and they say it just blows away everything, just the rest of Kendrick's discography, which I can't agree with. I just want to, right off the bat, say I liked Mr. Morale. It is an album I would recommend. But to say that it blows damn out of the water, I think is just ridiculous. So instead of making this just a straight up Mr. Morale recommendation, I wanted to go through and kind of talk about how I feel like it fits into his overall discography. Kendrick is somebody that I slept on far too long when he first came out. Obviously, when Good Kid, Mad City dropped, I'd listened to that whole project, and Backseat Freestyle was playing everywhere. That's when the GOAT conversation started. And then the whole thing with Kendrick versus J. Cole. And the big debate, at least when I was in high school, was the GOAT at that time was between either Kendrick or J. Cole, coming right off like the Watch the Throne stuff. So the Watch the Throne stuff was huge, but they were kind of seen as the kings of the previous era, and the new cats coming in was like Kendrick and Cole. And Kendrick was hit or miss for a lot of people. I feel like in my city of Fort Wayne, when it first dropped, a lot of people were skeptical. A lot of people listened to the more traditional rap still. But after it got like more spread around that he had linked with Dre, and after he had started releasing other projects like To Pimp a Butterfly, I really started to take notice. The first time that I had listened to Kendrick on vinyl had to have been You're Dead. And that's when I really started to be like, alright, I gotta sit down and listen to this artist. Because I just trust anybody Flying Lotus collabs with. And so my connection, I've never really been influenced by mainstream music. I've never really been influenced by popular music culture. And I always try to develop a personal relationship with the art. I like listening to whole albums over songs. So I feel like Kendrick, as far as sitting down and listening to a whole album, he really does deliver. Section 80 is really good too, and I like his C4 album. His C4, he's more like in his Lil Wayne phase, but there's still some cool stuff on that. I love his energy. His Milli remix is really cool. Going before that, I've even listened to Hub City if you want to go way, way back and do the deep, deep cuts. And you can still hear some Wayne inspiration. So I feel like Kendrick is kind of a Wayne-inspired rapper, but he took it with more energy, more flow. He brings in some like Busta and DXM-inspired cadences. Kendrick's not afraid to get weird. He's not afraid to get gritty. He's not afraid to bring weird inflections. He's not afraid to step outside of his box to kind of impersonate different speech patterns to bring it into his lyrics. Like on the Family Ties verse, where he was kind of pulling in like this rodeo kind of flow out of nowhere, like be patient. Yeah, Family Ties was cool. Good hype. I liked the rollout for Mr. Morale. The Heart Part 5 is a really interesting track, kind of dissing the culture. And that was interesting to kind of dissect. I've been following like the West Side Gun Griselda wave, and he kind of does everything for the culture. So to hear Kendrick say that he doesn't want to sacrifice his life for the culture, he kind of looks down on it. And he's kind of wanting to more step up and be kind of a role model for parentage. I think his Christ metaphor, like with the crown of thorns, is kind of alluding to the sacrifice of being a parent. And the end of like, I chose me, that's kind of him calling out the selfishness of people nowadays, or people not stepping up and maturing to the level and making the sacrifices they need to properly raise their children, which is an issue. There's a lot of millennials, and I feel like Kendrick is a quintessential millennial artist. There's a lot of millennials that aren't stepping up and filling those roles. I certainly am not taking the time. But in my childhood, and the reason I don't relate to this part of the album, I've always stepped up to responsibility. I helped raise my younger sister. I've made a lot of sacrifices for other people, and I've always been faithful and committed in my relationships. So the infidelity parts and the parts about not sacrificing enough, I feel like those don't really relate to me. Those don't speak to me. Like the themes of, say, Damn. Because a lot of the themes on this are more relevant to my actual life. But, yeah, Mr. Morale was pretty interesting. As far as where it fits into his overall discography, it's not as good as To Pimp a Butterfly. It's not as good as Damn. Not as good as Good Kid, Mad City. Better than Section 80. Better than Untitled Unmastered. Better than C4. Better than Hub City. But to just discuss Kendrick by saying better or worse is doing a disservice to what he brings to each project. The reason I think I would say Damn is his greatest project is because every single song fit the theme of the album. It opens up really well. I love the Fox News sample. It goes into like the energy of DNA just like echoes throughout the entire album. It brings you to this high and then it maintains that energy all the way until Ducksworth, and that's the best outro I could have ever thought of. Just the fragility of those moments that he described in Ducksworth is a day-to-day occurrence on the streets. That's the come to Jesus moment that happens every day. So that was really cool. Kind of working my way backwards. God and Fear, both really good tracks. Kendrick delivers every verse on Damn. I feel like Kendrick is just giving me exactly what I want, just delivering. Good cadences, good flow, good themes. XXX, perfect ethical song about protecting your family and kind of weighing the justifications of murder. And I love the frame story of someone asking him the question and then him answering it and kind of coming to him as if he's some type of prophet figure, and him just being Kendrick and talking from his previous life experiences. That's a great track. I don't vibe the YouTube stuff too much, but that's alright. Lust and Love are both really good tracks. Humble is Humble. It was the perfect hit song for Kendrick. Pride is a really good Steve Lacy produced track. I love that. Pride is awesome. Super important theme. Pride is the source of all evil in men. All evil in humanity. So it's the original sin. People forget that. People underestimate the importance of that message that Kendrick was delivering on Pride. They heavily misunderstand and don't appreciate that how important that message is to our lives. Loyalty is a really good song. I mean, featuring Rihanna. Love Loyalty, that just is such a vibing track. Just feel. Element is one of my favorite Kendrick songs. If you've ever had a parent in prison, you can feel that commissary made it to Kama's line. And my grandmama dead. Ain't nobody praying for me, I'm on your head. It's just such a perfect song. Like, if you've grown up in struggle and you're trapped in your parents' problems, that encapsulates that perfectly. Yeah is just another vibing track. Love it. Love the hooks. Every song feels the same. This album is so cohesive, so coherent, flows so well. Perfect album, perfect rap album. And I like that Kendrick doesn't bring in other rappers on this. He doesn't need to. It brings his albums down. So I think Damn is definitely his example of his greatest work. So anybody who says Mr. Morale is better than Damn, I just don't understand that. My issues with Mr. Morale are the Baby Keem verses, specifically the interludes. Everything Keem says I've heard before. His rhymes are stale, and his delivery feels artificial, and it feels Kendrick inspired. It doesn't feel inspired by any classic rappers. It feels Kendrick inspired. So I don't like that. Kodak's okay. I really like his hook on the 12th track. Can't remember it, but it has that hard-hitting bass. The 13th track was my least favorite. Baby Keem is trash. Um, Push You Off Me Like, huh? That was my favorite thing Kodak contributed on this album. The reprise of the intro was cool on the 10th track. The We Cry Together, I've heard that on poetry jams, man. I've seen that whole skit before. So, I mean, I'm glad that Kendrick has made this so people can see and highlight the stuff, and I've seen the comments where people are saying that the makeup sex is just tap dancing around the issues. That's true, but that's a subject I've seen explored in poetry jams, so it's not something that was new to me or surprising to me. Mr. Morale, I don't think the beats were as interesting as some of his other albums. I really do like the sub on the 12th track. It comes in like a missile. I love that. I like the Thundercat produced track with Blackst. The bass on that is just super vibey. I really don't like the song where he says, reminded me of danger. I'd risk it all for a stranger. That's a weak line that stuck out to me as a weak line for Kendrick, weak rhyme. I don't like it, and it's not really true. I'm sure in all reality he would not risk his life for a stranger. That kind of goes against the theme of this album. That just stuck out like a sore thumb, that line. So, intro track was good, kind of sticking with the themes of how Kendrick starts an album, which is very similar to Damn and to Pimp a Butterfly. I almost want him to pull in some random dude to just give some, just speech at the beginning. I'm tired of these same intros, but it's cool. Kendrick is Kendrick. That's kind of my thoughts on Mr. Morale. I've listened to it several times. I understand the themes. I just didn't want to take too many notes on it or dissect it too much because I don't want my enjoyment of this album to be framed by my critique of it. I don't want to devalue my own enjoyment because I'm arguing that it's not as good as these other albums. Mr. Morale was a great follow-up to Damn. And Damn, I think, is just a hard album to follow. So the fact that he brought any type of heat after releasing this album is just incredible to me. Out of all the albums on first listen, the one that stood out the most had to have been To Pimp a Butterfly. On first listen, this just slapped. This album shocked me. Literally shocked me. And I'm not surprised that Thundercat, Flying Lotus, Kamasi Washington were all heavily involved in the production of this. And, Alright, really stood out to me. These Walls really stood out to me. King Kunta really stood out to me. And, those are kind of the songs I go back to and listen to on this. This album, I still will listen to the whole thing, but as far as listening to full-length Kendrick projects, I'll listen to Damn start to finish pretty easily. This one I'd probably listen to the second most start to finish, but if I'm going to be honest, I normally just go through, listen to King Kunta, These Walls, and Alright, and then I'm good. I got everything I really wanted out of this. This dick ain't free. And if we're going to go and talk about Good Kid, Mad City, this one, if someone's not really a fan of rap, this is an easier album to show them just because some of these songs are just really vibey. It just brings you to some hood ideas. Like the advertising and rollout for this album was just really cool. I mean, once you see these pictures, you know what this album's going to be about. And The Recipe is one of my favorite tracks on here. Obviously, Money Trees. And I like Cartoons and Cereal that he put on the West Coast Bangers Volume 3 with Meek Mill around this time. That was a cool track. Cartoons and Cereal is cool. Him talking about Tupac and stuff. This was a solid album. I would say I'd kind of put this on the Mr. Morale level. Because Mr. Morale is mature and it has some cool themes. Some stuff on Mr. Morale, it's cool, even if it's surface level, that he talked about it, like trans rights issues. People were talking about Kodak Black having allegations against him, but I feel like he filled his role on this album, and if we're gonna hold people for the worst moment and they're accountable for the worst moment in their life and every moment of their life, that's different than punishing them for the worst moment of their life for every moment of their life. You can hold them accountable, but you can't punish a person for one moment of their life for the whole rest of their life. You can't do that. So I feel like it's okay that Kendrick included Kodak because, I mean, accountability isn't lifetime punishment or being banished. So those are my quick thoughts. I think Untitled Unmastered had some nice moments in it too. I'll definitely buy Mr. Morale on vinyl, but like if I was just gonna give arbitrary like ranking numbers, like 1 out of 10 of quality for his albums, easy 10, soft 10 for To Pimp a Butterfly, damn easy 10, soft 10, 8. Untitled Unmastered, I really like that album. I like Raw Cuts. I'd give that an 8. Mr. Morale, I'd give an 8. It's a good album. Pulled down by the Baby Keem songs. Yeah, that's my thoughts. I might give a more detailed review of these other albums. Definitely this one, because there is a lot to talk about music-wise on this album. Kendrick continues to inspire. Coming from a childhood where my parents spent time in prison, where I've dealt with gangs and drug dealing and people running up into my house, running up into other people's houses, my friends running up into people's houses, my friends getting killed. Kendrick has a lot of emotional maturity when he talks about these subjects, like, damn, starting with him sampling Fox News and then just completely ripping everybody with DNA is just one of the best starts to any album. I like when Kendrick does his little singing. I'd almost like to hear, with how goofy Kendrick is, I'd like to see him go back to a more casual and just use some funny inflections and just I want to hear a mixtape Kendrick. Kendrick doesn't miss, and he's one of the greatest poets of our generation, and he's one of the greatest rappers and one of the greatest executive producers. He puts his albums together really well. I'm excited to see what Pglang comes out with. Not the biggest Baby Keem fan. I got to see him live at Buku, and he was underwhelming live as well. So there's some Baby Keem songs I like, but overall, I don't want to see a bunch of Baby Keem bogged down or add too much airtime to these Kendrick albums, because Kendrick is best when he's just rapping solo. As far as the hiatus between Damn and Mr. Morale, I really like his feature on Busta Rhymes' Look Over Your Shoulder. He has this line, 12 failed open mics, hopeless notes I write, refocus till my flow got nice. So good. I love that Kendrick Lamar feature on that, and I love the Kendrick Lamar feature on the Danny Brown project that was in the meantime as well. So both of those were pretty cool. Yeah. Definitely not a hater. I'm definitely still excited about the album, but don't go, sit down and listen to all of Damn, and then sit down and listen to all of Mr. Morale, and then tell me that Mr. Morale blows Damn out of the water. And then I'll call you a liar again. I just don't care. There's no way you can interpret it that way. Everybody interprets music differently, but that's wild. Anyways,